the word lift to 797979. Finally, a formula that boosts total testosterone. If your results with Ageless Male Max are too intense, please decrease use. For your free bottle, text LIFT to 797979. Text LIFT to 797979.
Ramona Shelburne, Israel Gutierrez, Kevin Blackistone, Frank Isola. Where have you been all my life? Today, back. Brooks was here, but you only cared about polo putts.
Hey.
Oh! Are the Suns saying no to Kawhi Leonard? And whether U.S. soccer fans need to be rooting for Mexico. Let's go around the horn.
Somebody.
Vamos, Mexico.
CONCACAF.
Welcome back, Tony.
Represent.
Thank you very much,
It's
guys.
Around
Good
the
to be
Horn,
back.
the show of competitive banter. Here's Tony Reali.
The list of 2 U.S. Opens by the age of 30. Jack, Tiger, Els, and now Brooks is there. Koepka, back-to-back. Where's the Brooks-Koepka love? It's lost, and this course was really, really hard. Vetch. I'll say this. They lost the course is an all-time great line from Zach Johnson. When you guys want to complain about scoring on the show, you got to be like, Reali's lost the course. USGA actually apologized for Saturday. Frank, was the course lost? Is that a bad thing? And are players allowed to complain? Those are the 3 questions I had. Dig in there.
All right, you could complain, but it's the same golf course for everybody. I actually think the USGA made a mistake by placating the players on Sunday. Obviously, they drenched the greens to make it a little bit easier. But come on, when you're looking to attract the casual golf fan who watches the majors, all that's coming out of this, and we know it's Long Island, so they're complaining about the traffic, which I get it, but they're also complaining about how hard the golf course is. Give us a break, guys. You're all playing on the same golf course. We don't care what the scores are, just as long as it's competitive and fun to watch.
Kevin Blackistone.
Well, one of the problems is, Frank, is that is not the same golf course if you start at a different time. And that was the big problem on Saturday. That's not, well, but this is the major. This is the big deal. This is, people are playing, this is real serious. This isn't just out on the weekend at the Muni golf course. And so a lot of guys were at a disadvantage when the greens were too fast. Some guys were at a disadvantage when they had other problems. So they really need to straighten it out. Now, I will say this one thing about the whining. These guys play all year long. They're able to smash the ball on the most beautiful golf courses in the world. They don't have to worry about any of this. And so that if for the championship in this country at that course means that you have to adjust and play to all those conditions, then you just have to do it. But it's not the same for everybody depending on the time.
Israel Gutierrez?
No, but it is, sort of. I mean, that's why they flip-flop the times Thursday and Friday, and that's why they send the leaders out last, not just for, well, not mostly for TV, but obviously because the conditions are the same for the people in charge. Could somebody have come up from the rear and said, hey, I'm going to take this thing on Sunday because the conditions were better on Sunday? Possibly. And that almost happened on Sunday, but it didn't. And really, I'm just of the opinion that if this happens to be the one golf tournament all year long where it's this difficult, then you play it and you prepare for that level of difficulty. You're not being embarrassed out there. Every other golfer out there who would even take a second to laugh at you would shoot 150 on that course. So don't even worry about that. Play the course, win the tournament, stop complaining.
Mm-hmm. Ramona Shelburne, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, the numbers don't really lie. There was only 3 golfers who shot under par on Saturday. And on Sunday, there were 15. Like, that's not a whole lot difference, but it's enough to say that something was wrong on Saturday. It was too dry. It was too windy. They didn't water the course enough. And Kevin's right. Like, when you played it in the morning, there was a lot of golfers who went out early and they sat back. I mean, Fleetwood shot a 63 and he was sitting in the clubhouse the whole time. Is anyone going to catch me? So clearly they did something on Saturday. They made it too hard. They didn't water the course enough. And it was wrong on Saturday and they fixed it Sunday.
Maybe something else you want to address, please.
Well, I was going to say about the water. Why not just do that? Why not? Is there anything that's embarrassing about having really, really low scores win this tournament? I mean, a year ago at another course, you saw Koepka win with a really low score. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so.
You know what's going to be the defining image of this tournament, though? It's Phil playing mini golf there. Polo putting. And did you see people of your ilk? He should be disqualified. He's a national disgrace. Think about the children. He wasn't disqualified. He got cheered by the gallery Sunday. He said it wasn't about disrespect. People who think it is should toughen up. Israel, you have a view on this?
Yeah, look, I don't mind it. I laughed when I saw it, and frankly, I wasn't sure what the rule was, just like I'm sure Phil wasn't exactly sure what the penalty was going to be there, which is why I don't buy his excuse necessarily. Like, I'm not saying, oh, Phil, you did a messed up thing, but I don't believe him for a second. In that split second, you think he said, oh, if I go grab this real quick, it's going to just be a two-stroke penalty. I'll be good in that case. No, he did not know what the rule was. He did not, and plus the rule is subjective, so it could have led to a disqualification, which would not have allowed him to take advantage of the rules. And in that moment, he's saying, you know what? I'm so mad about this. Bleep this. And that is disrespect to the fans. That is disrespect to the game. But I think that part is overstated.
Ramona Shelburne?
I'm not sure I quite understand. You guys, golf guys, are going to have to explain to me. Why is it worse to accidentally, to get frustrated and then hit the ball like he did than it is to claim that I'm getting a scoring advantage? Like, to me, that's like knowingly saying I'm trying to get an advantage here. I'm taking advantage of a loophole in the rules, which is what they eventually ruled, that he got the two-stroke penalty there. But it seems to me like that should be way worse than what he actually did, which is just get frustrated and hit the ball when it was moving.
Frank Isola, you want to weigh in here?
He acted like a petulant child, and we've seen this before from Phil Mickelson. When he's on the Ryder Cup team and he complains about the captain, or when he's in every tournament he complains about the golf course, or when he's in California making millions upon millions of dollars saying he's going to move because of the taxes in California. This is what Phil Mickelson does. Disqualified? I won't go there. But come on. That was an embarrassment to the tournament, to the golf course, for him to do that in that particular moment and then kind of tell a tall tale about why he did it.
Ice storm brewing in Plasma 4. All right, Kevin Blackistone.
Well, for anybody who watches the NBA and wants to talk about superstars getting calls and criticizes the NBA for that, zip your mouth, because what happened 2 days ago was Phil Mickelson getting a superstar call in the game of golf, because that's exactly what he is. And you can read the confusing rules, but you see in one of those rules where it says disqualification, and that did not happen to him. In a sport where people self-police themselves, in a sport where you can call in and call out somebody's error on the course, in a sport where if you don't sign your scorecard, even if your scorecard is right, you can be disqualified. So that this didn't happen is a problem for golf more than it is for Phil Mickelson.
You want to add to that?
Well, it's a tiny bit hypocritical to say that the golf course should have been better and those players had a right to be frustrated when this was the ultimate act of frustration by Phil Mickelson. He was speaking louder than everybody else who commented on the course after Saturday because he did it with that act that took over the tournament. And that was saying, you know what, this course is too bad. I'm going to go ahead and break a rule of golf just to continue to compete.
Mm-hmm. Last thing on this tournament, anybody want to weigh in on why they think Koepka is kind of under the radar here? This is 2 U.S. Opens, as you said, the toughest one to win in back-to-back years before the age of 30. Israel, any thoughts on that?
I do. I think we've been through this before. We've seen the post-Tiger sort of anointment of players, whether it be Jordan Spieth after he did a more impressive thing than winning back-to-back U.S. Opens. We did it with Jason Day. We've done it with Dustin Johnson. Maybe we would have done it with Dustin Johnson if he didn't continue to choke away majors. But I think we've done it too many times.
Wait, are you saying this is self-control on the media's part? You're saying the media now is showing self-control and restraint, and that's why? It's not because Koepka's name is hard to pronounce?
Fiery take.
Isola, do you have a last word on that?
Well, I think what happens, too, he's only won one other tournament besides the U.S. Open. That's the Tony Soprano Waste Management Tournament, whatever that one is called. So here's a guy who belongs in that group with these young players. It is up to the media and the sport to promote him a little bit more.
Okay. Isola's got some good lines today. We're going to move on. World Cup, you guys got to get up to its level. It's been awesome. Mexico won, Germany nothing. The outcome of the tournament so far, and the American dilemma, at least seen through Landon Donovan here. I want to talk about this. He's taking heat for this, supporting Mexico there. Frank, you want to dip your toe in the American soccer fans' dilemma of continental neighbor but CONCACAF rival?
I think the soccer snobs, and there's a lot of them, will say, oh, see, this is why the U.S. can't be taken seriously, because you can't root for a rival. I just think this is Landon Donovan, who grew up in, an area with a lot of Mexicans, played in Mexico, has a relationship with that country. What is the big deal? He's American. Like Landon Donovan, I bleed red, white, and blue. I was cheering for Mexico to win yesterday. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the players that are criticizing him doesn't make him un-American. He's rooting for the underdog. And Mexico against Germany was an underdog. Give the guy a break.
KB?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. You know, here's a guy who's played against Mexico. He knows how thick that rivalry is. It's one of the best rivals that we have, and yet here is a team who we could not beat. This country is not represented. So let's cheer for Mexico. And man, Mexico, we need to put an arm around them anyway. Give them a hug after all we're putting them through in this country right now and all they've gone through. You talk about tragedies with the earthquakes and the hurricanes and all those sorts of things. And here is a team that finally broke through against Germany, hadn't beaten them in World Cup competition, hadn't beaten them in 11 international competitions, and to finally get through this, that was a fantastic thing for them. Of course, cheer Mexico.
Okay. Israel Gutierrez?
That is all true, KB, and I agree with all of that. But part of the problem here is you don't really know the motivation from Landon Donovan. Was it because you got paid by Wells Fargo? Oh, by the way, Wells Fargo not looking very good these days also. Was it because he's got that little chip on his shoulder from being left off the last U.S. World Soccer Cup team? So those questions are all there. And I agree with you 100%, KB, that we should sort of embrace Mexico and Mexicans right now the way some portions of our country have been treating them. However, this is a situation where you're talking with Landon Donovan, where you're separating team from country. You don't have to be, in love with El Tri to be able to accept Mexicans in general. Like, they have a history, they have a rivalry. So I understand that, but I do think, again, seeing both sides here.
Ramona?
Look, if all the things Frank said, he's rooting for the underdog. I like their players. I speak Spanish. I grew up in L.A. All those things are true, but it just didn't feel organic when he's standing there holding the scarf. Like, if he was on social media, if he was on Instagram, if he'd get an interview and he was cheering for him, and these are all the reasons I'm cheering for that, that's fine. But, to me, holding the scarf and doing all the Wells Fargo promotional ads, it just felt, inauthentic, and then you question the motivation. Is this because somebody wrote him a big check, or does he really feel that way?
Frank, of the Germany loss and Messi miss and draw on Saturday and the Ronaldo hat-trick Friday and Neymar getting roughed up the way he does in that draw for Brazil in the opening game, what's been the most seismic thing so far?
Well, I do think, Messi missing the penalty kick, which would have given Argentina the lead. They win that game. And when the final whistle went off, he punted the ball. He knows there's a lot of pressure under him. But for me, Mexico winning, you're defeating the defending champs. And the coach there, Juan Carlos Osorio, he was educated in the U.S., played at Southern Connecticut State. 2 weeks leading up to the World Cup, the Mexican fans were chanting to fire him. You talk about pressure jobs. The Cowboys, the Yankees, coaching the Mexican national team is a pressure job.
JB?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And they beat the world champions. And Germany's almost a fixture when it comes to the Final Four in the FIFA World Cup. So it's Mexico for me.
Israel?
Yeah, but Mexico always steps up against the good opponents. I thought the way the Switzerland treated Neymar in that game with the 10 fouls and the 3 yellow cards. I thought that was great.
That's strategy.
Not neutral there, huh?
The celebration in Mexico City caused seismic activity.
Exactly.
I don't think this is even a debate.
I'm glad you picked up on that. That's why I used the word seismic there, Ramon. See, Momo? I'm picking up what you're putting down. You're picking up what I'm putting down. I like this. Taking a break right here. Buy or sell on the other side. Look, Kyrie's on Panama.
Next. You're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee-oh! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Buy or sell.
Stunner from the NHL will lead with it right here. Barry Trotz resigning from the Washington Capitals. Wow. The reporting here that in winning the Cup 2 weeks ago, per his contract, the team kicked in a 2-year extension. 2-year extension, clearly not to Trotz's liking. The money not up to where he wants it to be. The coach who just won the Cup is leaving the champs and open for business elsewhere. This is an incredible story. Kevin, you're in D.C. The floor is yours.
I did not see this coming. I don't think anybody around here saw this coming. First of all, in the NHL right now, there's only one opening, and that's with the Islanders. And the other thing is, everybody knew that he was underpaid, and you figured with him winning the Cup, he would be getting a contract somewhere around $5 million a year, which would make sense and keep this team together. This is stunning because the other thing is there's some players on this team that won't be coming back either. So this championship roster is going to look different.
Do you view this as the Washington Capitals blowing it? You can't let the guy who just won the Cup get away?
Even though there was some discussion about him being fired at midseason when things weren't going well, I absolutely see this as them blowing it.
Frank, how about you?
Well, first of all, he's going out on top, number one. Who's to say that, a lot of stress with last year, and he's thinking, health-wise, maybe I want to step away for a year, or he's doing what a lot of players do and what a lot of people in the media do, striking while the iron is hot and trying to get a bigger contract from somebody else.
Ramona Shelburne?
Yeah, but if that's what you're doing, then you leak the story before you actually resign, right? You leak it while you're still talking. You give the fans a chance to rally
that's
before.
An NBA move, Ramona.
That's how the leverage game is played.
Maybe
Come on.
Coach that team.
Okay. Israel Gutierrez?
I mean, it's quite possible that Trotz overplayed his hand because there's just the one opening available, because maybe he just put too much value in winning that cup. But it does feel like the Caps really blew this one. I mean, you win it after all these years. You want some level of continuity here. And I don't know what the numbers were, but it couldn't have been that expensive.
Well, when it's somebody else's money, it's never that expensive.
It's money. No big deal.
Buy or sell to the latest on Kawhi Leonard. Report from Phoenix is they would not trade number one for Kawhi. Let's engage Shelburne for liftoff. Ramona, what are you hearing?
Well, look, I mean, the Suns have done this year in and year out. They constantly have top 5 picks, and then they overvalue those picks and refuse to trade them. We could be talking about a Suns team with Devin Booker, Kyrie Irving, and Kawhi Leonard right now, and instead we're talking about Alex Len, Marquise Chris, Josh Jackson, DeAndre Ayton. Which team would you rather have?
Israel Gutierrez, you want to answer that question?
Well, if they would have had Kyrie Irving and Kawhi Leonard last year, they would have been in the playoffs without any stars. So I would have said yes. I'd be a little bit concerned about his injury if that's the case. I don't think that's necessarily true. There are people saying that he looks just fine in his workouts, just like he looked just fine back in May. But I do think that if they pulled back on this, it's just because he wouldn't re-sign there. He really just wants to go to LA.
JB?
You know what? The Suns haven't been in the playoffs in 9 or 10 years. Each of the last 3 years, they've lost like 61, 58, 59 games. They need to do something because whatever they're doing right now, it doesn't work. Do this.
Frank Isola.
Besides the fact that Kawhi is somewhat aloof and the fact that he's injury prone, he's a free agent after next season. So unless you can get some kind of wink-wink guarantee that he'll resign with you, you cannot do this if you're the Phoenix Suns.
Has there ever been somebody who's been more of a wink-wink guarantee guy than Frank Isola is? Look, I mean, you just look like the walking face of a wink. Don't do that. Buy or sell trade, Bryce Harper problem. Is he playing his way out of a $400 million deal, an actual headline? Could that be true, Israel? 1 3-month spurt of 217 going to scare teams off of Bryce Harper?
Well, I think it's more than just that. I think it's just looking at everything. When you look at maybe the last few years, maybe they're not all being really consistent. But also, just on top of that, you look at the $300 million contract that Giancarlo Stanton has and see how much of a difference he's really making to his team. The individual awards are there, but the team value, not sure if it's that high.
JB?
Well, the other thing is, you know, the Nats have 2 guys coming up right now. Juan Soto, who just clouded 2 home runs in Yankee Stadium the other week. They got a guy who's better than him, supposedly, and Robles coming along. These guys can replace a Bryce Harper if he's not here. But you still got to look at last year and how he performed in those All-Star appearances and that MVP and the fact that he is leading the league in home runs right now. He'll be back.
So.
I don't know, has the Giancarlo Stanton contract really worked out? But all it takes is one. And his agent is Scott Boras. And Kevin mentioned the Yankees, the short porch in right field. Don't ever say never.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that he was ever getting that kind of money. I don't know that anyone, maybe Mike Trout, but even that's just so much money, as Frank said. With Stanton, you just cannot make back that kind of money in today's game. And you've seen what they've done in the last winter, where you had almost a collusion between these teams trying to tamp down on player salaries. I think what I'm more frustrated with, if I was watching a baseball fan, it's just hard to watch him because he goes into these slumps. And when you get into a slump, you have to put the ball in play. You have to walk. You have to have more plate discipline, not less. His walk rate has gone from 29% to 7.7%. So if you're in there, that just means you're swinging harder and trying harder, which is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do in a slump.
We hit home runs in New York. Long fly balls.
Settle down, Frank. I don't want a wink guarantee on that. Shelburne, Blackstone. KB, I want to say this real quick. First of all, you look like you're auditioning for the Colonel for KFC, which I appreciate because I won't eat fast food. Haven't had it in 15 years. I want to thank you for filling in the last week.
Hey.
Both you and Kate Fagan making me pick either not Wally easy. Or one of Gladys Knights, but I'm happy because it's you guys. All right, we'll get a Gutierrez Isola showdown.
AARP can help you become your healthiest self. It's why we offer health tips for your body and your brain. So take on today and every day with AARP. Learn how at takeontoday.aarp.
Gutierrez, do they need to rename Old Timers Game when a 37-year-old is vaporizing balls into the second deck?
Short answer, when you have to be ID'd to play the lottery in your state, yes, you are too young to be playing in the Old Timers Game.
He's retired, therefore he is an old timer. It would have been nice to see Goose Gossage at the game. For some reason, barred from Old Timers Day. Not right.
Well, he would have been throwing balls at people's head. That's what he would have been doing. Gutierrez gets the point. Showdown 2. You saw launch angle and exit velocity there. How about the launch angle and exit velocity here for fans on the field? Who played it worse, Frank?
If you're foolish enough to run on a football field where guys have helmets, this is what you deserve. By the way, for you young kids, Google Mike Curtis, Baltimore Colts. Did the same thing in 1971 to a fan.
It's called exit velo, Tony, if you're really one of the cool guys. But no, the baseball fan played it better. He just didn't know that baseball player could tackle so well. It kind of lost on that one.
Israel Gutierrez take the FaceTime.
I'm still feeling the Father's Day vibe, so I gladly cede my time to you, Mr. Tony Reali.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you, Israel. The notes and the condolences my wife Sammy and I have received have gone right into our soul, and I wanted to say that. Talking about the duality of losing a child near childbirth and delivering another healthy one is impossible. I was talking about this yesterday on Twitter. How can you ever be whole again? Parents have had to go through this before. I'm going through this now. And I spent time, pledging that it's okay not to be okay. And for me, the recognition that I've come to is that life can be out of our control. And that's okay. It's how we respond and what we do. That's what we have control of. So here's where I am today. Grief is part of humanity. Grief is proof of humanity. Parents dealing with loss or anybody dealing with loss, meet yourself where you are. Give voice to your feelings. Young men, young women watching, this can be how you grieve. Don't bury your heart. Keep it on the outside and look to other people because humanity can lift us. That has been my experience. But I need to say this now. More duality. If I'm brutally honest, today my thoughts are with children in cages. That's parents experiencing loss too. Humanity needs to be better. Amadeo, I love you forever. You're named for God's love. May we all be craving it. May we all be giving it to each other. And may we all be compassionate enough to give it to all.